So it was my mistake the other day in class when I went over the BMW cards for those that had submitted them. Again, I apologize about mixing up the dates. I thought that was the due date with all the confusion with the different days off and trying to figure out the schedule and all that fun stuff. So short story is I apologize, and I'm going to go over the few that were left over, submitted on time, but were left over after that class, and then extend the deadline to the end of the semester as well, just to give you guys time to finish this up and also work on our final project. So let's talk about Ahmed's pieces here. So we have this front piece. You had one labeled as back, and I'm not sure if you actually meant the back and the front, but we were just doing the front here. So I'm going to treat these two as two separate sort of fronts of the card. I think they're both good starts. They both could use some tweaks depending on which one you decide to go with and sort of refresh and redo. But let's start with this one because it was the first one to come up. I think here we're missing some information if this is indeed a front, like the logo and the actual model that it is. So let's not forget that it's the active hybrid X6 that we're advertising here. But we'll start with some of the positives here. Like your headline, I think the headline is good. I might rearrange the font a little bit to go with something that is a little bit more BMW centric, like Helvetica we talked about. Like BMW has our own version of Helvetica. If my drop down will actually work. Oh, and there's QuickTime acting funky. There we go. Technology is great. So I won't go through like the whole thing, but it's allowing me to click, which it is not. I don't know why. My computer is being laggy. So let's go with Helvetica. We'll go with, I don't know, we'll go with a medium metallic. See how that works. Feel the difference. Again, I would again go with something a little bit more bold, a little bit more stylized, sort of classically BMW. Let's make sure that we do not have a stroke on our frames. So make sure we go to none so that we don't have a black box when these theoretically go to print. But I like the front shot, and then the insets aren't too bad. I think they might be a little bit big, or maybe some, if you wanted to show these details, rearrange them a little bit. We have 3 different sizes going on, so I might try to see if you can rearrange it so that you can have them all be the same size, or at least very similar sizes. Again, include the BMW logo, maybe even just 2 insets. And then the BMW logo here. So it's not, I know it's only covering the tire, but usually, see how much room we have here. Oh, yeah, you have room to move that up. So even if you wanted to move that up a tiny bit, and then make this one a little bit smaller, or even, again, we'll see how much room we have, not much room on that side. But see if we can even push or even have a graphic on this side, like if you had even just a solid color on this side, or on this side, to have these insets, or at the bottom, depending on how you want to work it, just to sort of unify these 3 images and also include the BMW logo and also the model information. So I might strip it down so where you just have either these 2 or this one and this one, whichever 2 you choose, to use those insets, but again, stylize them so that they are a little bit more uniform. Or if you're having them different sizes, make sure that you really have sort of a creative reason to do that. Right now, it kind of just looks like 3 different sizes sort of thrown in the corners there. And again, not to forget the BMW logo. I think overall a decent start. I think maybe with the addition of some simple graphics, a shape or 2 or something like that to help work your inset images in the detail shots, I think would work. It would work well. Let's go to number 2 here. So again, I think it's a really good start. I would maybe even if you combine these two, if you had or feel the difference. If you had feel the difference here as a headline, and then you can make this even smaller, or even had like, um, you know, the all new, you can make that a lot smaller. But like the all new active hybrid X6, I kind of like how you have this laid out in different sizes. You could even have, you know, for all intents and purposes here. Again, I would go with a more sort of BMW-ish font, but even graphically, if you wanted to do something, I'm just kind of moving things around like this, and had the all new much smaller. But if you had again your headline here, feel the difference, the active hybrid X6, stylize that active hybrid and X6 a little bit to make it sort of stand out a little bit more graphically strong. And then I would stay away from having colors behind the logo unless it's colors in the image itself. But yeah, I would. There we go. Okay. Trying to undo that. There we go. I would stay away from having a color in the background behind the BMW logo. Maybe a white box, or even a black box, or even no box at all, just to see what that would look like behind. This color. It might work well, or even have it, see how well it looks up here, although it sort of distracts from the decent reflection we have going on here. But I might sort of combine these two and, again, have your headline up here and then stylize this a bit. You could have, if you had the all new, a lot smaller, active hybrid X6, kind of give it a little bit of style. That way you can use your text effectively. To sort of use your text as a design element in and of itself for this. But overall, I think both of them are a decent start. I think with some tweaks, you can make either one of these work very well. All right. Then we'll go on to tabbies here. So as a quick little preview, we have one, and then we have the second one. So I will start with this. Again, I think overall a great start. I like your headline, the performance of X. I think that would be really, I think it's a really cool, strong headline here. I might, again, push that a little bit bigger. You have or even make your car cut a little bit bigger, because you do have, it's showing the performance, but I think sort of showing the vehicle. This is like super fast, but as we make it a little bit bigger. And again, we want to make sure that we're setting up and make sure I have the view properly. Film mode. Let's check out my footprint preview. Okay, so there's our trim. Okay, so we just want to make sure that we're setting up our trim and our bleed lines properly so we can see them. Check the footprint preview. But yeah, we have our bleeds. It looks like, going to the edge of the bleed. But, again, basically giving that, making that image a little bit bigger, showcasing the car a little bit more. We could definitely make this smaller. The BMW, keep in mind that these are also really large postcards. So they're jumbo mailers. They're almost the size of a piece of paper, a little bit bigger even, I think. So keep in mind, anything that's like this big, it's going to be super, super huge. So we might even be able to push this a bit smaller, push this graphic over a little bit, and then increase, I'm pointing like you can see it, increase the size of the car image. But yeah, I really like the headline. I might stylize a little bit better, a little bit bigger. And then definitely include, maybe even drop, this is a lot of information for the front of the postcard. Again, we're just designing the front. So I might get rid of all of this block of text and then have your, potentially have your model. So if you had, the all new active hybrid X6 stylized in here, or even coming out across the bottom, you could decrease this black box behind a little bit, definitely make that logo a little bit smaller, sort of rearrange that way. But I think it's a really super solid start. Now let's go to this one. Graphically stylized, this one is really intriguing. I might, first of all, again, it's a very strong headline. I like that. I might change these to some of the details some of those detail shots because we're cutting off a lot of the car. So one of the important things is we want to make sure that we're showing as much of the vehicle as possible. So what I might do is, depending on how you have these set up, okay, so those are just graphic lines, great. Depending on how you have these set up, I might even make these two and these two, see if you can make it one image, like this image, facing here, and then still even have that line, as long as it doesn't strike through the actual car, which may be impossible. But I kind of like the graphic that you have going on. But again, I think specifically here and here, I think it just cuts off too much of the product, and here you're not showing a lot of the product. Even if there was a way to, have this or an image work in this way, so you're showing a little bit more of the car. Or even, again, if we got rid of, I know I feel like, shouldn't say I know, but I feel like you might be, sort of creating a W, or at least it looks like a W effect with BMW. So this might kind of detract from the design you're going for. But even if you took these away and again made this a whole image and this a whole image, you still get this kind of like slice that you have going on, and I kind of like that. So a few different directions you can go with this one. Again, you can try to make this one solid image and this one solid image, or see if you can work, if you want to keep this W graphic, see if you can work with images here and here, flip so you can see it here and here, to show a more full body shot of the car, and then maybe turn these images, switch those with some of the detail shots, so where they're cut off, it's not that it's not important, but it's less important if it's already sort of a detailed cut off shot. I like the logo. I might make sure that's a little bit centered there, but the gray logo looks good. Again, I might get rid of this. I would get rid of that block of text again, and have a slice of life, and then have your model information. Make sure we're including that model information. So the all new, active hybrid X6, you can still work that into that space as well. So again, a couple different directions you wanted to go. Like I said, just to repeat, if you wanted to keep this sort of W graphic you have going on, maybe change this image and this image to a detail shot, and then see if you can rework these images or find other images that might work better to show more of the car. So you're not cutting it off. Not that you're cutting it off completely, but you're not, you're just showing, not very much of the car. Or see if you can work this space into one image and this space into one image, and then you can kind of keep this, the gray you have going on. So depending on which direction you want to go. But for both of them, again, I would sort of simplify. I would remove this big block of text, make sure that you're including the model information. I would make this logo much smaller. Maybe work with some graphics in this area to make your model and your headline work a little bit better. And then this one, again, those changes that I went over. But I think overall, again, very, very strong start. And then Austin's, I'm going to go for these two. So this one we kind of talked a little bit in class where we had the PDF we were looking at, but I'll go over it some more. I do like what we did here. So let's do, show the overprint preview. Oops, that's not what I want to do, not overprint. I want it to do preview mode so you can actually see. So that's what it's going to look like when it's cut. Theoretically, let's go back to normal mode so we can see all of our lines. So let's make sure, again, you can see here, make sure that you're including the bleed and the safety, and then your trim is this area, so I can see that you have your file set up properly. And that you can just go back into file setup and document setup here, and you can click it really quick. I'm not going to do it, but and then you can make sure that you have your bleed and your trim and all that fun stuff set up properly. So yeah, we talked about these images a little bit and really pushing that that sort of design that you have with that. And I like what you did there. Again, I might push it even a little bit more to take these three images, maybe, that may or may not work. But even push these images, and they're well inside your safety here, and see even if you can scale them. Let's see if it actually works. We'll go, why is that not selecting? It does not like me today. I just went 112% just to make it a little bit bigger. And push those a little bit more, make those a little bit bigger. Not to go crazy with filling up the space, but yeah, I think you have some room to make those bigger, or even if you didn't want to make those bigger, even, I don't know if this was changing my mind from last time, but even push this space a little bit, to really sort of push that line that it's breaking up, and move this one. Oops, we have to grab the whole box there. Push that line a little bit more. Hopefully that sort of makes sense. So you have these three, really kind of like showing this line as well. So you have the graphic. We talked about creating that movement, going side to side and from top to bottom, or bottom to top, depending on how you're looking at it. I like the jaw-dropping design. Again, I might change the font. I'd get rid of the punctuation. This is just a headline, unless the headline is actually like a sentence, but here's just a phrase. So I might drop that punctuation. And I don't think you have to hyphenate that if you don't want to. But yeah, again, I would go to more of a cleaner sans serif, like Helvetica New, sans serif, stronger BMW font, BMW-ish font. And then the Active Hybrid X6, I like. I might, again, if you went with a bigger, bolder type, it might stand out a little bit, or even put a drop shadow. So I'm just doing a copy and a paste in place, and then I'm just going to kind of nudge it a little bit. And then let's make that paper. Oh, because I did the stroke, that's why. See, this is where we have to pay attention, and even I do it. I was on the stroke and not on the fill. Oops, I want to make sure I'm selecting my text fill, not the shape fill. All the fun mistakes, and then we're going to move this back. Dun, 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 dun. We're going to arrange that. We're going to send it backwards. Send it backwards again. There we go. And then I'm going to nudge it this way, so we have a little bit of a drop shadow. The white may or may not work, or even if you did white text with, here, let's undo a bunch. So you could have the white text with the red drop shadow. I do like that burgundy you worked in, because there's a lot of like the burgundy reds in your design. But yeah, even if you did like a sort of burgundy-ish, let's preview that. One screen mode preview, so we can get rid of those lines. So now you can see, you still got that little bit of a drop shadow effect, but it's a color. But yeah, you can play around with the colors. Maybe you don't like that background at all, and you want the you want that foreground color to be the burgundy. But you get the idea. Again, I think if it was a thicker, like bolder font, rather than a thinner font, even if we went with, I'm just going to change the one, but even if we went with like a bold italic or an ultra bold, let's see what that looks. Ooh, that's a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's going to cut off the text. But you can see even we have a little bit of a bigger, bolder font. It's a little bit more easily read. And then you might have to mess around with your kerning and tracking just a touch to correct the spacing a little bit. But yeah, I think that, again, for both of these, maybe not so bold with the headline, or you go bolder with the headline and not so bold with the active hybrid with the model information. But I think it's really well done. I think you took some of the things that we talked about in class the other day to heart and did really well with them. I think, a little bit of modification again, and I think some tweaking, and you could have a strong design here. Go back to normal mode. Then we'll take a look at this one. This, I don't know if it was just like a sort of a sketch or an idea, but I kind of like where you're going with it. I would do, instead of, this is just, sort of my, I guess, experience doing this for too long. Instead of changing the meaning of luxury, it's a good thought. I think it's a little bit wordy. So even if you did like redefining luxury or luxury redefined, because again, we have, again, we have a really simple jaw-dropping design, strong, simple statement, great. And then over here, I think if you had like luxury redefined or redefining luxury or something like that, make, simple, strong, bold statement. I think would work really well there. I would, if you're going to use this, I like this sort of graphical idea. Um, I don't really agree isn't the right word, but I don't really agree with what's happening here with the car facing upward, but we'll deal with that in a second. I like this image. I think I would push the, I know that you have the cool background and everything, but I would push that, that image much larger to sort of showcase the car a bit more. And you can see you have plenty of room to mess around with that and make that car a bit bigger. That might be a little too big, but you get the idea. And you can even drop it down a little bit if you had your redone headline. So if you still wanted some of your background there, and then you have plenty of room for the BMW logo, maybe up in this corner, or, which I was going to say, we'll tackle this in a second. If you wanted this to be more graphic, I like the idea of having that angle. Maybe even push this angle a little bit more. Zooming. Maybe push this angle a little bit more so it's a little bit stronger. Maybe going from here to like here-ish, and you could have the BMW logo up in that top corner, and then have the active hybrid X6 model information here, and you can even have this just be a solid color, or if you wanted to have one of the detail shots in that background, something like that. I think the idea of having, I like graphically how you have it broken up. It's dynamic. The diagonals work really well. I think just the image doesn't really work all that well. Having the car pointing upwards is a little bit visually confusing, but I think that with some tweaking, if you wanted to, this could be a really strong piece as well. Again, if you wanted to have that angle be a little bit stronger, have your BMW logo up here, the model information, basically what you're selling, and then have your luxury redefined, or even if you wanted to have in here luxury redefined, all new active hybrid X6, that kind of thing here, or have active hybrid X6 here and have your headline sort of in here with the BMW logo. I think that could work really well. I think it's a pretty strong idea. I think you have some potential good concepts going. Again, depending on which one you wanted to go with. Again, this one with a little bit more tweaking could be super, super strong. And again, this one with a lot more tweaking, but you could end up with a really visually dynamic piece on this one. So those are the three that we didn't really go over in class, again, because of my schedule confusion, and I do apologize again about that. But I think, again, with all three of these designs, we have some strong starts, some strong work, and with a little bit of editing, you guys can present a really cool, really well presented revision for final BMW postcards.